My name is Matthew Wayne Selznick, and I know this much. It's okay to believe whatever you believe, so long as you don't hurt anybody. This episode of I Know This Much, as you can probably tell, either from the background noise or from the video itself, depending on how you're consuming this, is a car cast. I'm in my car, driving south to visit my mother, and probably going to be late because I always start later than I think I'm going to start. But anyway, I felt like doing this while it was fresh in my mind, and you know, since, what the heck, I'm going to be in the car for an hour or so, I might as well make use of the time. So here I am, trying to do that by doing an episode of I Know This Much. And this time around, I mainly wanted to talk about, well, I'm loath to use phrases like, as I get older, but fuck, as I get older, I find less and less value in arguing and debating and fighting and attacking for the sake of arguing, debating, fighting, attacking. When the issues are simply what people think, or when the arena is one that has zero chance of affecting the outcome that's being discussed. You know, this is fresh on my mind because I posted a video of a celebrity explaining how she can reconcile her critical thinking side with her Judaism and her function as a practicing Jew. I posted this video because I like this person. I'm going to mispronounce her name, and I'm in the car and I can't check it, so I'm not even. It'll be in the show notes, and I'll have a link to the video. I shared the video on Facebook because I think it's fascinating to learn how folks, how they choose to live metaphorically, how they choose to live poetically, if you will. How spirituality blends with their everyday life. And that's what this video was all about, so I thought it was something to share. But one of my longtime sort of online friends posted a comment addressing all of the flaws in this celebrity's arguments. And then I used the word argument. All of the flaws in this celebrity's opinion and in her faith and in her belief. And I just feel like, you know, number one, there's no picking apart the flaws in someone's beliefs. They're what they believe. You could believe anything you want, and it could be ridiculous. And whether or not your beliefs make sort of real-world sense, like measurable, verifiable sense, is missing the whole point and the whole value of belief. And so, arguing that, well, your belief is just, doesn't make sense, your logic is flawed, there is no logic in belief. Belief is comfort. When I say belief is comfort, I think that all sort of belief systems, religious, mythopoetic, if you will, systems, their main purpose is to kind of fill the gaps in our understanding, to allow us to get an answer for the things that we cannot answer. And, I like the idea of mystery, personally. I like kind of not knowing. And I sort of embrace the idea that there are some things that we simply cannot know, that we cannot prove or disprove. But for some folks, for many folks, we need to know, they need to know what's behind door number 3. And I think that's an extension of what, it's part of our primate brain. When we were pre-human, well, not pre-human, well, but yes, pre-human, but for most, let me put it this way, for most of our evolutionary history, we have depended on our ability to recognize patterns in the environment and identify those patterns, especially to identify those patterns as something that could harm us. So, I think this is what drives human curiosity, when you get right to the root of it. And religion is another way, spirituality is another way to resolve the blind spots in our perception, to apply recognition to the patterns that we cannot directly mark, categorize. So to try and stamp a seal of approval on one person's sense of recognition of this pattern or that, if you follow me, is it's you're never going to win. In a way, I think trying to pick holes and trying to argue logic and critical thinking to disprove, I'm making air quotes in the car, to disprove someone's belief is another form of trying to fill that perception gap. And you see this between different people of different faiths, and you really see it among atheists trying to push back against the beliefs of people of faith, whatever that faith is. So when my Facebook friend argued that, or claimed that the position of this celebrity was flawed, it frustrates me because they're missing the point. There is no flaw to belief. There's no fault to be found in belief. So long as, actually not even so long as, there is no fault to belief. And writ even larger, there are no bad thoughts. And I know there are philosophers who have picked this apart and debated and discussed and analyzed this line of thinking. I'm retreading ground that human beings have been discussing, retreading ground that human beings have been discussing and walking across for, philosophically speaking, for hundreds and hundreds of years. When I do the show notes for this episode, maybe I'll try to dig up who some of those philosophers were and what their positions were, but this show is called I Know This Much, so this is really, I know this much. So, this is just going to be my riff on this topic, and much wiser people, some of them who may be watching or listening to this, can probably weigh in on, oh yeah, what you're discussing is basically so-and-so's argument. But, so there's that, all right? There's no flaw to be found in belief. I believe that. I believe that. Ha ha ha! Woo! There's no flaw to be found in any thought. It's what we do with those thoughts, how we, and if we act upon those thoughts, that I think is what can be criticized, sanctioned, what have you, based on the rules of society, according to the rules of society. So if I think, I should sacrifice a lamb to my God in order to appease them, that God, you know what? Whatever you want to think. If I go ahead and sacrifice that lamb, well, animal rights activists might get all upset. There might be some sort of animal cruelty charge placed upon me for sacrificing that lamb. It's a whole other discussion that we can slaughter a lamb for food, but and not be largely, by and large, criticized in Western society for doing that. Yes, there are people who find that offensive, but there's no law against a slaughterhouse slaughtering a lamb and, making food out of that lamb. But we would probably be upset if somebody slit the throat of a lamb, pulled out its entrails to read them or check for signs from God, and did all this in their backyard or their living room. It's a side discussion, but it's interesting, right? But the point is that there's nothing wrong with thinking anything. It's when you act upon those thoughts, or when you try to force others to behave according to those thoughts. That's when we could run into a little trouble, and that's when I could see criticizing the execution of the thought. Look into your own brain, dear listeners, dear viewers, and analyze the thoughts that you have had in your quiet moments, in your before bed moments, your just waking up moments, your alone in the car moments. And think about the violence and the hate and the lust and the jealousy and all of the not so pretty things, or the things that others would be surprised by, that you have thought. Think about the things that you believe deep in your heart. And ask yourself, would I want someone else to say, well, you thinking that is flawed. There's something imperfect about your thinking. I call shenanigans on that. I think that's bullshit. And it disappoints me when I see people criticizing others solely on the basis of what they believe. And say this as someone who used to do that. And that's where the as I get older comes into play, because as I get older, I'm just not interested in fighting for fighting's sake. I just don't get it. I don't want to put negativity into the world. I don't want to, more than that, more selfishly than that. I don't want to have negative, antagonistic attitudes about other people in the world. More accurately, I don't want to feel antagonistic, negative feelings where I'm deliberately provoking, deliberately looking for a fight. And the argument against my position will be, well, this is just a discussion. We're just exchanging ideas. There's no exchange in this instance. All right, the exchange is this. I guess there is an exchange. The exchange is this. I don't think there's anything wrong with anything other people believe or think. Stopping right there. Again, differentiating from how they act upon their beliefs. That's a whole different story. And the other person's opinion is, well, I think, what people believe, if they believe in spiritual things or religious things, they're flawed. Their beliefs are flawed. There's no more to argue about. There's no more to discuss. There's no more. We've exchanged the ideas. Okay, you think that, I think that. There's so much negativity, and it's shown. There are studies, verified, double-blind, study after study that shows that negative emotions detract from us. Feelings of fear and hate and anger, which, by the way, fear, hate, anger, they're all the same thing. They're all manifestations of fear. They're all attempts to apply a pattern to the unknown thing, to the shape in the tall grass. It's all the same thing. Putting unnecessary fear, hate, anger into the world, it bumps up the stress level in our bodies. It puts a strain on our bodies. It causes us to think less clearly. It reduces our intelligence because we're putting resources into either attacking or running away and nothing else. It's not good. And larger, actually the opposite of larger, more specifically, I think personally, I know this much, when we spend energy on denigrating, attacking, criticizing things about other people that we really have no control over and that don't have any control over us, we are, I believe, attempting to assert some kind of control in our own lives. So, to argue about something that is inarguable, to argue about something that you can argue about until the cows come home and you'll make no change or difference, like, I think this celebrity's attitudes reconciling Judaism and science are flawed, even though this celebrity will never hear my criticisms, and my criticisms will never change what this celebrity feels, thinks, believes. Spending energy on that, I think, is a way to assert some kind of control in your own life. And it might speak to a lack of control in other areas. I can't pay my bills this month. I don't have a happy marriage. I am, missing out on my dreams. But darn it, I have made clear that I stand on this belief and this opinion about this subject. Rawr. I think that's what that is. And I say that because that's what I did. And it's in moments of despair and depression and anxiety, even today in my own life, I am tempted to engage in these discussions when I see them pop up. Because voicing my opinion makes me feel like I am like I'm making a little tiny mark in the world where otherwise I feel like maybe I'm not. So, I feel for the people who find it necessary to voice their opinion about subjects that, practically speaking, their opinion means nothing. And I don't mean that in a cruel way. I mean, literally, it means nothing. I feel for those people because I think maybe they're filling their days with they're fighting a battle that they can fight. They're lashing out at a perceived enemy or injustice that they can lash out against, rather than flailing against the things that maybe they don't have any control over in their own lives. Or maybe they're too afraid to face in their own lives. It's hard, I get it. But it does frustrate me. And I guess that's my own caring about something that really I shouldn't even bother caring about, right? This whole podcast is kind of based on that whole premise. So, when I say I get it, I mean I get it, That's totally clear. My battery's going to run out any second now. So I know this much. It's okay for people to believe whatever they believe. And it's okay for people to not believe what other people believe. But it's probably a good idea to pick your battles and recognize that if you're fighting about one thing that you can never affect, you might be avoiding something that if you try, maybe you can make a difference. My name is Matthew Wayne Selznick. You can find me at mattselznick.com. You can support this podcast, I Know This Much, by becoming a patron at patreon.com/mattselznick. I would love your comments on this episode, either in the comments section on YouTube or in the comments section for the show notes for this episode of I Know This Much at mattselznick.com, or you can send me an email at mwsmedia@gmail.com. And that's that.